Sure, I was just looking for anybody I don't recognize. So that I don't recognize you, so I expect you to ask a question because I don't recognize you. And I don't recognize you in the corner, but everyone else I think I know. Yeah. Well, so this was going to be a sort of debate, wasn't it, about Nominet? So there's a hopefully everybody knows Nominet runs the .uk registry. If not, you're in the wrong place, really. And then there's an election for the member-elected non-executive director coming up later this month. So I think 3 years ago, Jim and I were standing, and we had a sort of at the first domain summit in Putney, where I live. So that was nice. I walked there, and then the idea we had a debate about what we thought were the right issues with Nominet and how we would fix it. And I'm a big fan of that kind of thing. I think those kinds of discussions bring out a lot of interesting sort of conversations and makes you think about things and it allows people to express their views. Anyway, so the idea was that we do the same this time, but Rob has not turned up, although he apparently was out last night. I was wondering why, but I think there is now a reason why, which I won't go into, but apparently Rob has decided he doesn't want to get up on stage. So I figured we'd turn it more into sort of, well, you suggested a Q&A. What I would be really interested in, genuinely interested in, is your views on where Nominet is. So I got on the board 3 years ago. It was a very different time. People weren't in a terrifically good mood with Nominet. There'd been a lot of movement, which I'm sure the Nominet staffers will remember very clearly. There was a new CEO and a new chair, new board members. And so the whole idea was, let's settle this down. Let's try and get Nominet back to its roots. Let's try and stabilize this. Let's make sure that it is a well-running registry that doesn't go off on tangents anymore. And so that's what I've been trying to do on the board. And so I'm really interested as to whether that has come across to people, whether they think it is in a better place, and then any concerns you continue to have. And then, of course, if any questions you have for me, at the board level, like what's the approach, what's the strategy, what's the thinking, anything like that, I'm open to any questions.
So Kieren, can I ask you the first question, please? What have you done so far?
On the board?
Yes. Thank you. And why the board is important? Thank you.
So I'd say the main thing that I've achieved on the board is that the board is always aware of the member's perspective, almost to the point where I say it too much. So I will say, like, as a member organization, or how does this impact members, or have we asked members what they think about this, or what do members think about this and how do we know that? And that sounds kind of daft, seeing as we have multiple member-elected directors, but it actually hasn't been the case in the past. So that's the thing that I consistently do, which is say, well, what do the members think about this? And that has started, I hope, that has then started filtering through the organization to the point where the staff find out what the members think. And I've definitely seen that in board papers. There's more of a broader understanding. It's less what internally they think makes sense, and there is a broader sort of, well, how is this going to be viewed more widely? And in fact, in board papers now, there is always a section which says impact on membership, which I don't always agree with the contents, but it's there. So that's the most important aspect, is that it's there. The other thing that I think is, which again I'd love your feedback on, is we've got a new member of engagement, Alan, who hopefully you've spoken to if you're a Nominet member, and he's got a very different perspective, what I think is the right perspective, which he says, well, we're a membership organization, we need to know who our members are and what they think and how their business works, and we need to engage them more. So that was a lot of me raising that over and over and over again. Like, well, how are we engaging with our members and who have we spoken to? And then we've got, and this is sort of a board level thing really, we've now got KPIs which we didn't have the longest time around. How is that being measured? On an organizational level, if you don't measure something, it just sort of doesn't happen, or it gets put behind other things. So we now have KPIs on like how many people have been contacted, how many people are responding to consultations, so there's now this sort of organizational metrics. So that should filter through. And if it's not filtering through, tell me and I'll see what I can do. And then communications has got better, I think. I'm not excited about communications. I want to get to the point where I'm excited about it. And I think I was talking to staff last week. They put out this consultation, and I understand why it happened, but they didn't have a comms bit behind it. So consultation came out as a very long text, and it wasn't broken up. It didn't have a summary. It wasn't. People said they were going to announce webinars, but they didn't have the webinars lined up, which you should have done from day one, because members don't want to be bothered all the time. So I've been pushing quite hard on that sort of attaching the operational to the communications. So those are the things I've been focused on, and then there's a whole bunch of the other board stuff, strategy meetings. And does that answer your question? That was a long waffling answer, wasn't it?
No, it's good. It's good. I am a new member of Nominet, and I would like to start passing the microphone. And with absolute pleasure.
Who's this?
Andrew Bennett.
Hi, Kieren. So I'm Andrew Bennett from Netistro. I've been a member for about 20 years. So I wanted to ask, as you're on the stage on your own, why do you think not many people have stood against you this year? So do you think it's something to do with a one-seat year and you're the incumbent, or do you think there's some bigger problem that's putting members off standing? I mean, the stage should be full of candidates, you know, a bit like in one of your, when you stood as an MP in Putney.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the obvious answer is because everyone thought, well, Kieran's doing such a great job. What's the point? No, honestly, I'm a little annoyed about it. I would genuinely want to. I was expecting 4, hopefully 5. So I was surprised it's literally just 2 of us, and I'm a little annoyed about it. And I think it's. I mean, if you look at the candidate pack, I was on the nominations committee for a while. Came off obviously because I was, my term was up and I didn't know whether I was going to stand or not. But we redid that pack to make it friendlier, because it was quite almost sort of unwelcoming before. Now it's welcoming. It's just like, these are the reasons why you should be on the board, and this is the process that you'll go through. And so it's friendlier. There were none of the process issues that there were in the past. It was announced. People knew about it. So it's a good question. Why do I think it is? I think people don't yet see what the value is for them. And so I will work on that. If I get on, and you're only allowed to be on for 2 terms, I will focus really hard on, the year when I'm off, there being as many people as possible, like literally vying, and not in an aggressive way, but like, I want to be on the board because this is really useful. And by the way, I would recommend it. It's a really good board, and you cover really interesting topics. And it's in sort of a personal capacity. It was much more interesting than I thought it would be. And I would recommend it. If you're at that certain age, where you're not sort of constantly striving, and you actually want to figure out how things are done in a professional way, on an organizational level, on a strategic level. Nominet's now got itself to a point where there's real value in that. So I'd really recommend doing it. And maybe that's it. Maybe the answer is for me, because I'm one of the few people that's happy to get up on stage and talk about it. Maybe I should be pushing a lot more, explaining to people, this is what was really good about it. This is why you should do it. So I'll take it on. I'm frustrated. I wanted there to be 5 of us, and us to be digging in, and for members to choose the person that is going to do most for them, which I would have hoped to have been me, but just me on the stage, I mean, it's a little frustrating.
Yes, I do remember the last conversation we had on the stage with Jim. And the next question is from Jim Davis. Thank you, Jim. Just close the microphone. Thank you.
Is this close enough, helmets? Sorry that you're so lonely up there, Kieren. But you mentioned that you'd put together the election pack, or had involvement in it. And there were a couple of questions where I wonder about your answers to those declarations, if I may. Sure. There is a question about, and I believe from memory, but I might be wrong, but I don't recall seeing it before, whether a candidate has ever been involved in an insolvency that might embarrass Nominet, or words to that effect. To which you answered no. And also...
I'm not very easy to embarrass.
Well, Nominet's embarrassed, not you. There was, of course, and you did reference it in your information pack, the .nxt business that you had, which there are a number of news reports indicating people were left abandoned when the conference was cancelled at the last minute and it went insolvent. Do you think that that isn't something that should have been declared to members in the answer to that question?
No.
So you don't think that is something that potentially could embarrass Nominet?
No, but I'm sure you'll try your best to embarrass me about it. I've been very open about that. I think you'll find, if you look at the Nominet membership, a very large number of them have run businesses, and those businesses have occasionally failed. If you ever try and run a business, and it worked really well, .next, for 2 years, and then collapsed thanks to ICANN. I mean, we can chat about my .next business all day if you want. You try and run a business, businesses fail. My business failed. I was running a conference, and this is when, do you remember when Nominet there were big launch of the new GTLDs? And then they delayed it, and then they delayed it again, and they delayed it again, and then they had this whole, they had a security issue where someone was able to see other people's applications. That delayed it again. Then they had digital archery, which they put in place and then scrapped, and they delayed it again. So I had a conference based in London. I was in San Francisco at the time. I can't remember. I'm not going to get the dates right, but let's say it was for August or something. And the GTLDs were supposed to launch. Was it just before? Just before. So it was planned for it to be, and I thought ICANN will delay. So it was supposed to be something like 3 months after the launch. And then ICANN delayed it for either 5 months. And so no one wanted to come to the conference. Everyone cancelled. And then, of course, the issue I had was I put down a massive deposit, as you have to with these big hotels in London. I put down a massive deposit, which I could not get back. And I just didn't have enough funds. I wasn't fluid enough. And I had to cancel it. I lost huge sums of money. And then I could not afford to pay back the attendees that had paid. And then I called up, and it was painful. Anyone that's ever been a business owner will know this sort of thing is exhausting and it's painful, but you learn from it. And I called everybody and apologized personally to them for saying, I'm so sorry, but the business has gone under. And the thing was, 99% of them were like, we understand. Look, don't worry about it. Hope you get back on your feet. The last 2 conferences were really good. So that's the deal. I've been totally open about it. So no, I don't think, I'm more than happy to talk about it.
Well, I'll pass you the microphone. And so one more question.
Jim gets 2. Okay.
I get that businesses can fail, but there were people left essentially stranded, and you say 99% of people were comfortable with it. Quite a lot of people online have indicated they weren't comfortable because they were left out of pocket.
Well, you're talking about one person.
And the question wasn't that, though. It wasn't whether or not there was an explanation. It was whether that was something that was materially relevant to a declaration asking about an insolvency where people in the industry were left. Some people, I understand your explanation of the reasons, but some people were left high and dry. That should have been something which
you say high and dry. You mean $9 down? I mean, that's what it was. It was the cost of attending, and that
Well,
was
people
it.
had also booked hotels and travel to get there because it was all done at the last minute,
Sure.
according
I mean,
to reports
you're
read.
pursuing a bit of an agenda here. I mean, we should also point out, Jim, that you've been suing Nominet as well. I mean, you're pursuing a agenda. Do I think it was? Do I think it should have been declared? No. Everybody is fully aware of that. It happened. How long ago is it now? I mean, over a decade ago. Plus, I'd already run for the board. I mean, there's nobody that doesn't know. And as you can see, I'm perfectly happy to talk about it.
Thank you.
Change of topic. I run an agency, and part of our business involves launching websites for brands, both new brands and brands expanding into the United Kingdom. I'm always perplexed about whether it's better to use .co.uk or .uk. Right. And I'm keen to know how well .uk has done in recent years, and where you see, 5 or 10 years ahead, which one will become the most popular.
Okay, so I wish you'd asked me this in a couple of months' time, but I'll tell you what I can tell you. Yes. So Nominet is going through a sort of strategic. What's up? Is this better? Is this better?
Should be better. Yeah.
Was it too boomy?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. So Nominet's gone through a strategic review, and the goal is with that strategic review is like, how do we grow .uk and .co.uk, right? And so as part of that, it was being like, well, how do we need to understand? And this is sort of board level. Was like, well, please explain .uk to us. Like, what are we looking at? How do you see it? What kind of businesses are there? How do we perceive this? Who are the, where's the growth? So on and so forth. And so that is currently in process. And David Carroll is looking at it, and he's got a whole bunch of data, which he sort of presented some of it to the board, and he's went away. He's got to do some more research, and so that's a long way of saying it's not final yet. But what I can tell you is, and this is based on my personal interpretation of a process that isn't finished yet. So with that caveat, I would say where we're at is it's a little complicated. .co.uk and .uk are on some levels interconnected because some people have both, and they say, well, if I've got a big brand in particular, they get both. But there's also another arm of .uk which is its own thing. And then there is .co.uk, which is also its own thing. So there's sort of three buckets, whether it's this bucket, that bucket, and the intertwined bit. Broadly, .co.uk is established. If you want to come across as an established company, as a company that is, we are based in the United Kingdom, we are a long-standing, upstanding business, .co.uk is where everybody goes. .uk tends to be we're a little bit more modern, we're a little bit hipper, we're a little bit less, we've got 55 staff. It tends to be more of a sort of a cooler is not the right word, but it's a sort of a cooler component to it. Now, so if you're talking brands, if you're talking a big brand, I don't know, I'm going to pick a brand, Adidas. I mean, Adidas should absolutely have both, and probably if it's got a cool new launch, I'd stick it on .uk. If it's talking about itself as a company, .co.uk. In fact, Adidas is all based around fashion and being cool, so I would say .uk. If you're talking about, I don't know, Caterpillar, I'm literally pulling this out of the top of my head, I would say .co.uk. Caterpillar's, I mean, talking about not the shoes, but, then they don't need to be cool. So that would be my personal breakdown based on a partial analysis that Nominet is currently going through. Is that useful?
Let us hope Caterpillar are not going to watch this recording. And Leslie, the dream host, now the corporates.
Thank you, Helmut. And this is in my personal capacity as a Nominet member.
Sure.
So not in a corporate capacity today. Sorry. So question for you, Kieren. And I've seen the work you've done over the last 3 years, trying to be more kind of member-focused. My only concerns I've noticed over the last couple of years with Nominet member engagement is there was a lot of talk about improving it. So we had a gentleman who became the manager of member engagement, who managed somehow to survive for about 18 months. and he left. And of course, we got Alan, who's brilliant. That's great as well. But I'm somewhat concerned that based on what's happened in the past and what is still happening, there aren't enough people within member engagement to make things happen. I mean, I know there's I think there's someone who's doing some maternity cover at the moment. So correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe there's a maximum of 3 people in member engagement. And as a member, I would like to see a lot more focus on member engagement by employing some more people there. And secondly, we have this conference coming up in a few weeks' time, and members clearly ask questions about having sessions on AI and other things, and that seems to have been, unfortunately, completely ignored.
All fair criticisms. Yes, I agree with you entirely. And my job is to, it's not even to persuade the board, is to make the organization realize what the value is in engaging its members more. And I think it's getting there. And I'll tell you how I think it will get there. Like, for example, there's 2 staffers that have been here at this conference who have been engaging really well, I think, with the people that are here, and engaging. Well, I don't mean like they're turning up and saying, "So, hello, I'm from Nominet. What do you think?" They're like trying to figure out what's happening in the industry, where people's businesses are moving forward, the way that they're marketing things, the way they see the future going. This kind of building knowledge from members. Now, when that starts filtering through into the business, which will happen because the business is turning to like, how do we grow.uk? How do we channel market? How do we, the mindset of the organization is shifting. Once the value of that comes across, and I think it will shortly be coming across quite loudly, then the organization will start thinking, well, it's worth our while. This is worth our while doing this. The truth is, and you know the history of Nominet as well as I have, there have been long periods of borderline civil war with some of the members. And the truth is that when you're in that situation, an organization doesn't want to put resources behind getting more aggression back from people. That mindset is no longer there. And I can say that confidently, and I'm really so pleased that. That was the main reason why I stood at all, was to try and get Nominet past that. And we're past that, but it's going to take time to filter through. So yes, I agree. There should be more people in member engagement. And I think once Alan starts doing his work, and once it starts picking up, and once everyone sees the value, he'll then put in a pitch saying, I think we should be expanding this, and he will find a very strong advocate on the board for that position. But it's a slow-moving organization. In fact, we've had a conversation about, at the board level, how do we make Nominet change faster? It's slow, a little too slow. It's not we're not talking a £1 billion company here. We're talking, 60 million turnover. It should be more flexible than it is. So I think it will come, is what I say. And if, ask me again in a year's time, about a year, in a year's time, slower than anyone wants, it should be different. There should be a couple more members. And there's a member conference. I hope to God that the members are deciding several items on the agenda. Why they don't do that, I've run conferences. It baffles me. The first thing I do putting together agenda is call people that I want to come and say, what do you want to talk about? It's 101. But they were not there yet. We will get there.
Thank you. And we have the next question coming up. And if you could introduce yourself as well, please. Thank you.
Hi there, my name's Zahir. Nice to meet you. Just 2 questions. The first one is there any indication that there might be a lowering of the prices if there is a bulk? Because I think we're all going through a quality of life crisis and things are going through the roof. And I think if you're buying in bulk, it does make a big difference. And the second question is, what is the single biggest public good that Nominet could do, which it isn't doing right now, that could help society as a whole?
Okay, so
yeah.
Good. So this is why it's good to have me on stage, because I'm not afraid to talk about this. Price, which has always been the biggest issue, as you know, between members and Nominet. The price has stayed the same for 4 years now. Andrew will know. Well, actually, it's 3 years, 2 months, but you know. And there's a good reason for that. It's because it's got to the point now where when there is a price increase, because there will be a price increase at some point, just because the cost of running a registry is going up. There is inflation. The world exists. It will be, we're building a process by which it will be justified. It will be like, well, this is why the price needs to be raised. I'm trying to get them to take the price process as seriously as other consultation processes. And there'll be an opportunity for members to have their input on it. And it'll be, I think we agreed, like, no change will be made or not announced 6 months in advance, because one of the biggest problems with raising a price, you can't just stick them up and stick them down. It creates havoc. So it'll be a long place in advance. I don't think that price increase is going to happen for a while. Now, you asked about a price decrease. I think it's very unlikely. And I'll tell you why, because Nominet's put in a lot of money into upgrading its entire technology infrastructure. It needed a lot of investment. It has now been completely overhauled at a lot of expense, and it's now in a really good place. I think it should be signed off. There was an email about it from our head of IT. He said it's gone back a month. I think it'll be signed off in November. And in complete, bear in mind we are talking about a registry.uk registry. So there's a big tech stack. And that has been a process been going on for 3 years. And there was a lot of money put into that. And I think that's legit. And what I want to see is, I want all members to see that amount of money clearly so they understand where the money is being spent. That's what I want. And then I think if you make that case, then you'll go, oh, okay, well, now I understand why it is that you're charging this amount. That's what I want Nominet to get to, so that everybody understands where the money's been spent, why it's been spent on that, and therefore how you've arrived at this price. Now, I understand why there's the frustration about why it went up, and it went up under the previous CEO and under the previous board, and I don't think that was a justified increase. I've said it multiple times. I wrote multiple stories about it. But we are where we are, and the truth is, I don't think, although I'll say that if I see the financials, if there is a case for bringing it down, I will make that case. I just think it's unlikely. So it hasn't gone up for years. The prices of things have gone up for years, and so there will be a price increase at some point. But it will be explained, and there will be a delay and there will be a process by which that is explained. So that's where I think a healthy registry should be. Does that answer your question? Oh,
Well, one second. Let me get you a microphone. 1 second. Thank you.
No, thanks for asking that. It answers at 90%, but I think in the past there was a temporary promotion, and that's very helpful for bulk buyers, because they can, if it's just for 2 weeks, there's sufficient notice, because normally they're done by surprise. So, I mean, hopefully that wouldn't affect the bottom line, and that might be an opportunity for Nominet in order to increase its cash reserve, and at the same time help those people who are trying to support Nominet. Obviously, at scale, that wouldn't be practical, but I think a short stint would be great. And additional revenues, for example, from an AI.uk domain would be helpful as well.
Yeah, all good points. I do know that there is, once Nominet more fully understands the market, there's going to be more engaging marketing coming through. I don't know when that is. That's in process. I mean, the refresh of how you look at this and how Nominet approaches it, which I have not seen papers on yet. I know that it is in process. So I can't answer that question yet. You asked about public benefit. So that was another thing I forgot under my things that I feel that I've achieved was, the truth is that Nominet makes a lot of money. It makes more money than it costs to run. And that's always been the case. But because it is this not-for-profit company, because it is this sort of sees itself as a public benefit organization, there's always been this money. It's like, what do you do with this money? And a lot of that money, well, there was a charitable arm, and we won't go into that, which I didn't love. But a lot of money was going into specific projects. And I felt, and I got back up on members, I think, on this, is that it was a little bit disconnected from Nominet's day-to-day job, which is basically running an internet registry. And that work, by the way, is really good. The School of, what's it called? Institute of Coding. There was a whole bunch of the, I forget all the organizations now, like really worthwhile, good organizations doing good work. They were just a little bit disconnected from what Nominet as a core registry does. So there is this thing that is going to happen called Tech Fund. And the logic with that is that you put some of these funds into things like open source software, into things like the core things that make internet infrastructure work. And if you ever spent time in the IETF or an ICANN, you'll know that there's quite important chunks of the internet are run by a 75-year-old bloke in California who has just been doing it in his spare time for a long time. And all of that, and there's lots of people recognize this, all of that needs support, and there is a whole process happening by which Nominet will be putting money into that infrastructure layer, into that for-profit aspect. And so hopefully in a year's time, I'll say the biggest public benefit that ICANN did was, and I can list you 5 or 6 projects that we can all agree were for the benefit of the internet and therefore for the benefit of sort of the registry overall. Does that answer all your questions?
Thank you. Andrew Bennett next.
In the accounts that have just come out, published online, Nominet's lost 500,000 domains in the past financial year. And while I appreciate that Nominet's doing a marketing research, and John Matson has been appointed in the latest board report to do that report, it's going to take time. When you don't have time, you need to act now while the next round of GTLDs is coming in 2026. Other hybrid registries are outmaneuvering you. There's the likes of 2Cows have just taken the .Indian registry and Radex. There's GoData registries buying everybody in sight. There's Centronic who have won the .co contract. The competition is just eating you alive, and there isn't time to write reports, and why isn't there talent at Nominet now to deal with it today?
Yeah, so good point. So this is a wider philosophical point. Should Nominet be going for a .co or a .in or these other CCTLDs? And the truth is that Nominet, each time an opportunity is there, it weighs it up. And we get a board paper recommending whether to go for it or not go for it. And obviously each case is different. But broadly, Nominet has decided it isn't a hyper-aggressive commercial organization. But it will go for ones that are valuable, and it is sticking. In fact, on one level, it's proof that it is sticking to the knitting. Is that a phrase that people know? Is that an American phrase? I spent too long in California. It is sticking to .uk registry. So if it is a strong .uk focused brand organization, like Nominet picked up .gov.uk, for example, and there was a couple of other ones. It is very focused on does this fit our core remit? Our core remit is it a .uk thing? Or you could argue that chasing after a .co or a .in, or I forget the other ones, is a little bit, obviously not as much, a little bit like the Russell Hayworth wandering off into cybersecurity. So if there has been a bias, it's been to stick to .uk things and build up that brand. So if there was any .uk style registry or anything around .uk, Nominet would absolutely go for it and aim to win it. But anything that is broader, .uk has been a massively successful but commercial TLD that people have fought over. .in as well. So we do get board papers, and they make the case with a recommendation. And the truth is, you know, you have to trust your executive team. And the board, you know, I'm just on the board. I don't know. I haven't spent months looking at the deal. I don't even know what the parameters of the deal are. But you get a recommendation from the exec team. If you trust the exec team, you question them. You question their assumptions. You question their recommendations. And if they come up and everyone's like, okay, fair enough, we're going to stick with your recommendation, then that's what you do. So that's the level that I see it at. And I hope that explains the thinking behind it.
Thank you. And yes, moving on to the next question and reminding that UK zone is one of the top CCTLDs in the world. It is super successful, and we know that.
It is worth reiterating that Nominet does do a pretty good job.
Oh yes, and it works.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helmut. I'm delighted to hear Kieren saying about focusing on .uk and the registry business. But I'm also slightly confused, and perhaps you can help me, Kieren. You said that a price reduction was unlikely, and indeed you seem to be saying that a price rise at some point, I'm not saying you gave any indication of timeline, was also likely. But I also heard you say, or perhaps it was Andrew, that Nominet is continuously a profitable company as a whole. So I'm slightly confused by the correlation between increased overheads and the need to not have a look at a price reduction and the need to consider a price rise if it is a profitable business. But a second question as well, sorry, is that, and correct me if I've got the details wrong, but the company has lost, I think, 2 government related contracts that it previously held in the last year or so. And yet the loss of revenue and profit there will impact the ability to make a decision on a pricing of .uk.
Yeah, so that kind of conflates a couple of things, but I know what you're saying. Yes, so importantly, Nominet did not win the contract for PDNS, which is like a hosted DNS service, and in fact, and then is exiting that business. I think we've been quite open and public about this, and that was actually it was arguable that was a useful extension of Nominet's business, and I just fell on the line of like, it is DNS, it is useful, we should do it, but I was wavering. Others felt that we should go with, we should stick with it, but we did not win that contract, and that was a real shake-up for Nominet. And the why we didn't is because big boys have entered, and they are running it at incredibly low prices. I'm not quite sure how they're doing it, but there you go. That's not for me to worry about. So yeah, we did lose that contract, and that actually had a very big impact, and it had. As you probably know, Nominet let go quite a lot of staff as a result of that. And by the way, I should say it was a very well-managed process internally. So if you want to know whether Nominet is a well-run organization, there's nothing quite like taking a big contractual hit and dealing with that in a sort of responsible corporate way, which Nominet actually managed to do. I was impressed with how it's very complicated. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where a large organization has to make decisions about cuts. It's difficult, and Nominet handled it very well. So yeah, it was that. Now, I think there was a benefit to that ultimately. I've always felt that Nominet was had slightly too many people, was slightly fatty, and it's made it a little bit leaner, a little bit tougher, which is going to be useful in the GTLDs in the world, which is becoming a little bit tougher. But I do recognize that for a lot of people that had worked on Nominet, who were valued staff, who were lost, that was a painful process. But that is disconnected to your question about money. So you're saying, I mean, it's very easy. The answer is like, why? Well, you're making money, so therefore why you don't lower price is because you're running a big organization. You don't know what the parameters are. You have to keep reserves, and you have to make sure, like, you know, the worst thing in the world would be for something to shift. You have to invest, like we did with in the tech program, like put 10 million pounds into updating all of that software, all of that hardware. The worst thing is to say, oh my God, we now need 10 million. We're going to have to raise the price on our members to get that in. That would drive everybody crazy. And then you're like, oh, it's okay, we don't need to spend it, let's bring the price down. I mean, you could go that way if you wanted, but I think that would drive every member absolutely mad if their price went up and down according to what was happening in the market or what Nominet needed to do. And of course, there's inflation, you know, and also there was the cost of, like Nominet is starting to look into getting into AI. It was looking to you know, sort of shift to this new model. You have to start buying in talent, and the cost of buying in talent goes up and down, up and down. So this is just running a large organization in the tech industry. So the reason that we wouldn't put the price down because, oh, it looks like we're making money is because there's a layer of let's make sure we don't get into trouble. It's just basic financial organization. And I'm not the person, I'm not a CFO, but I do know that the CFO would happily tell you about it. And we do quiz her. I mean, we have it in the board pack. There is, every time, there's 10 pages on the finances at least, I would say. And there are people on the board who are, well, check out who's on the board. There are people who are infinitely better at this kind of stuff than I am, and I tend to leave the finances to them because they've been in huge organizations and they don't need Joe, who doesn't really know what he's talking about, pushing them on it. So that's the broad answer. It's a big organization. They are asked hard questions, and it's well run. It's now well run. Does that answer your question?
Of course, 1 second.
Andrew's probably looked at the accounts more recently than I have, but the surplus that Nominet carries is somewhere around the £100 million mark. So while I hear what you're saying, and it would make sense, say, describing the business difficulties you personally entered into with a small company, I don't quite get the idea that a company that's got 100 million on its balance sheet in cash or in cash equivalent is genuinely in such a position that whilst it's continuing to trade profitably, even if that changed somewhat, how that would require some panic, even with a 10 million spend, which I presume isn't going to be repeated for a while, when you're carrying 100 million in the bank.
Yeah, so you've got to look at it. So you have to look at it two different ways. That 100 million in the bank is because under the previous CEO, he increased prices, he set aside money, and his intent was to go and purchase more cybersecurity businesses. We remember all this. And of course, his one purchase was a disaster. The new board came on following the EGM and said that we are no longer following this. We're not buying companies. So then the issue was, well, what do you do with all this money? So you've got to separate out what the day-to-day income, day-to-day costs of Nominet are with the fact that there's this huge chunk of money, if that makes sense. Is that?
1 second. 1 second.
No, hang on. No.
Okay.
So it does, because you've got to build a sustainable business, okay? You can't say, well, look, we've got this amount of millions, let's just burn it all the way down, and then once we've got to a certain level, let's just ramp it all up again. That's just not how it's going to happen. I know you might want to run a business like that. I don't know whether you ever run a £60 million business. I doubt it, but it's not the way it's done. And I'm not the CFO, so you can talk to the CFO about it. Now, the reason we've still got 100 million, I think the reserve should be down to, I can't remember what the figure, should be down to 50 or 60. That's partly my fault, because I wanted to, as I said, I wanted to shift it to this tech fund, or at least have money going into a tech fund. And then we basically put a stop on spending the money that was going to be spent until we'd set that up, and that's taken a lot longer. So the money that should have been spent hasn't been spent. The other issue we had was, which is a nice issue to have, was that the portfolio, so obviously you've got this money, you put it in the portfolio to, you know, because you'd be mad not to, that it happened that the stocks that it went into did incredibly well. And even as you're spending money, more money was being made because there was so much money in the account, which is a nice problem to have. But that was the issue. But Nominet the plan is still, and you should talk to Andy Green about it, the plan is still to get that reserve down to what we agreed, which is good reserves for an organization as a whole, which I think, don't quote me on this, I think it's 50 million. And we had a whole paper explaining how we reached that figure. About or not, that's not up to me. But you do need to separate. It's not, when you're talking about a big sustainable business, that it's critical infrastructure. You can't just say, well, you've got money, so therefore. There is a divide between the money that is there and the running of the business. That's the answer.
Okay.
Respectfully, that's not, you mischaracterized what I was suggesting. The business is operating profitably. I'm not suggesting it should operate at a loss. You engaged with the idea that there might be a change in circumstance which might mean it started to run at a loss, which clearly, hypothetically, is possible, although an entity that is the monopolistic issuer of something like a domain country code like .uk has a fairly reasonable anticipation of revenue in advance from those registrations. What I'm trying to say to you is, if you're running a profitable business, not a loss-making business, and as a members director advocating for the membership, who are essentially domain registrars and people who pay the fees, the fact that there's 100 million in the bank and great that some of it's being spent, but it's continuing to grow because of other factors, means that it's not a case of deliberately driving it into a loss and drawing out of that, but you could go to you could reduce your profit on your trading profit by reducing the fees, and still, even if nothing changed, that would be fine because you're not making a loss still. And if something odd happened, you would have the concept that there would be some panic shouldn't be right, because you might, if you're down 1 or 2 million because of an unforeseen circumstance, then you have that insulation. That's what I was saying, rather than let's plough into this 100 million and spend it wildly on price reductions. That wasn't what I was saying.
It's a perspective.
Okay, Andrew Bennett.
So also in the last accounts, the staff number has dropped from well above 300 people to below 250. I believe 50 people have been made redundant. And while I can see from the board's point of view, that's to make long-term headcount reduction, so you save money over the next 5 years or so. I just wondered how that had impacted the staff, and how do they feel when there's 100 million in the bank and people are being made redundant? Is it a good thing for morale at the company? Are you hiring new people now, or is people continuing to leave? I noticed on the job site that even the CSIO job has come up for on the careers page. That means he's resigned. I believe
what makes you think he's resigned?
Oh, he might have got not resigned, got a new job somewhere else, or a better opportunity. Yes, but yeah. It seems people are continuing to leave, even though you've already sacked 50 people. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I mean, we're straying a little bit into, not board level stuff. This is straying into operational things, which is really not the board's job. I mean, I shouldn't be. I mean, I do keep an ear out, I hope, for the staff, or if there, in fact, I do, if there's any real concerns going on. And occasionally I've raised them, with the CEO. But yeah, I mean, it was a difficult process. There's no point in pretending it wasn't a difficult process. And we did, Noah has a very good head of HR. She dealt with it very well, very professionally. The CEO dealt with it. Fortunately, he'd done this process twice before, So he was really on the ball. And our job as a board at that point, because you've got to do it, is to question and support decisions. We'll question the decisions, make sure that they're being made in the right way, making sure it's done in a sympathetic way, and then support them. I mean, that's the job. So I do think that it was, considering it was a painful process, I think it was done really well, and it was done really professionally. And I do think that Nominet will come out of it better, because you tend to sort of, you lost a few good people, but you tended to, in the change, it's got a little bit tighter. Now, there is internal measurements that we see about what internal feeling is. There is independent review of that, and we see that. And unless I see something that I'm worried about, I say, well, yeah, okay, good, you're running the process right. I don't hear any people coming directly to me saying this is a mess. If I did, I would raise it. So yeah, I mean, it's a big organization. I mean, I can't have and I shouldn't have my finger on everything. And where there is one board member who's extremely good, who is in HR, and she spends a lot of time talking to the head of HR. So I kind of put my focus on member engagement, communications, and spending of money in useful areas. And I sort of, the truth is I leave the stuff which I am not expert at to other board members that are expert at it. That's the truth.
Thank you. Are there any new questions? Thank you. And we should.
Well, can I ask
absolutely
feedback on? I mean, so from my perspective, and I want to know generally, on one level, I don't really want to be on stage talking through a
May I ask you,
microphone,
please?
But
yes,
it's from my perspective, there hasn't been any. I was going to use the word drama. Drama is not the right word, but you know what I mean? There's been significant less upset in recent years. Nominet is coming across as much more stable, much more open. Is that how you are experiencing it? Because that's the goal. And just a pitch, which is, if I do, and you should all vote for me. If I get on the board, then I want you to know that you can call and email me and raise concerns, and I will talk to you. I say this each time, and no one ever does it. And I really well, actually, no, Leslie has once or twice. And I tend to call Andrew. But no, I mean, I have maybe, like, in the entire time I've been on the board, I've had maybe 10 phone calls. So I would like more people to call and say, Kieren, I'm hearing this, I'm worried about this. And then literally my job is to take your concerns to the board, and that's what I will do.
So I was on the UK RAC for 4 years, and I just came off it at the 1st of September as I termed out. And my experience has been that the executive is definitely changed. I mean, nearly all those executives that were there 5 years ago are not there today. The new executive, though they're not technically, they've still been at Nominet before, they've kind of been promoted up to C-level and heads of departments, are much more open and engaging and willing to listen. The two Steves are particularly interesting to work with, and David Carroll as well, through the UK RAC. The attitude to the UK RAC writing its own papers has been much better received, though it is quite a lot more work for the RAC members to write their own papers rather than Nominet write the papers, but the control has been removed from the new round, the UK RAC that was there before. Everything was, the whole agenda before was actually written for us. So there is a definite shift in the company. I just think that the engagement needs sorting out, and that's slowly coming there with Alan. He's trying different things. He's seeing what works. He's bringing back the member lunches. He's bringing back the conferences. And to me, it feels like Nominet is a brand that's sort of been tarnished over that 5 years, and people just want to stay away from it. And hopefully, they will come back and start attending the conferences again.
Yeah, thanks. So I agree entirely with you, and I'm going to turn it into a little bit of a pitch for why you should vote for me to stay on the board, which is, it is a little nascent. There has been a shift, and it needs to be embedded into the culture. And I believe very strongly, and have, I mean, you know, I worked at ICANN as the manager of public participation. I mean, I am totally bought into the idea of using the knowledge and the experience of the broader community to help drive your decisions and make decisions. I've seen it work. I know it's a lot easier for organizations just to have their own staff make the decisions. Life is so much easier like that, but you just don't make as good decisions like that. And so I'm absolutely 100% bought into that concept because I've seen the difference in my professional careers. Getting bigger buy-in is so much better. The policies are better and people grab them more. So yes, you and I both had major problems with how the UK RAC was run previously. And that has now been, I would say fully resolved. In fact, if anything, went a little bit too far, as you allude to, like saying, okay, UK RAC members, write your own papers. And you're like, well, hang on, you know, we do have day jobs. And so I think it'll find its own balance. And I think the balance will be, I'm the UK RAC board representative. I might be taken off, I might not, I don't know, it's up to, if I stay on, it's up to the chair fundamentally to decide. But I think where we'll end up with UK RAC members identifying issues, raising them, and then the Nominet staff being asked to produce a paper that reflects that. Then the UK RAC discuss it. This is a good policy process, and then you get that, and then you feed it through up to the board. So I think that's where we'll end up. But the goal was, and I did push on this, was like, can we go the other way? Can we just say, what do you want to do? Rather than, it's true, the agenda used to be, 1.1, say hello, 1.2, say goodbye. I mean, it was not conducive to proper policy discussion. And I think it's not final, but the mindset has fundamentally shifted. And I think that's good. And I will make sure, as far as I can, that it beds in. And the engagement thing as well. The truth is, unless you have somebody pushing on that, and I will push on it, I don't think it'll go backwards, but it won't go forwards. So I am fully committed to sort of pushing that engagement over and over and over again until it gets to a deeper place where it doesn't feel like a hassle for members to engage, where it actually feels like, Nominet has put this out. It's something that you wait. You go, this will be interesting because it's been well structured, because it's been well thought through, because it's like, well, what do we want to talk to members about and how do we structure it so they can give us feedback without it being a 55-page form? Keep pushing that, and I hope that should improve.
Thank you. And the final question. And isn't it great that we have knowledgeable members and asking open questions in a civilized manner? Thank you. Absolutely fantastic. So, the last question, no follow-up questions. Jim, ready?
Kieren raised it earlier, so that I'm representing a member who's in court against Nominet at the moment as their solicitor. So repeating that so that it's clear. But you just said there are no dramas and there's no civil war in Nominet. You literally are being sued by one of your members who
by you?
No, not by me.
Okay, your name's on the papers.
With respect, you should actually know that the person suing is not me. I'm his solicitor.
Okay, I am a member elected, Ned. I am fully aware of the lawsuits that your client has against Nominet.
Right. So my question is, when you're saying there's no drama and there's no civil war, how do you tie that in when you are literally being sued by your membership?
It's fine. That's running through a legal process. I mean, when I'm saying there's no drama and no civil war, what I'm talking about is not just one legal case. I don't think there's not a whole lot of members saying, yes, we have to follow this case. This is vitally important to our business. I mean, yes, it's a case for sure. But let's not forget what Nominet does is run .uk registry. What Nominet members do in the large part is register .uk domains. And Nominet, does a really good job of doing that. I mean, it's a really well-run registry, and it's an increasingly well-run organization. So of course, the drama that we referred to was, well, let's not go through a whole history of Nominet's drama. But in terms of governance, in terms of the running of it, in terms of the strategic decisions being made, in terms of, the structures in place, the technical structures in place, the financial structures in place, in terms of it being an organization, as a well-run organization, it is absolutely getting there. It really is getting there. And so that's what I mean when I say no drama. It's like, I think you can trust, well, I know you can trust the board. I think you can trust the executives to be doing what we say we do, which is run a .uk registry and run it well and let members know if there's any shift or any strategic shifting. Does that clarify it?
Fantastic, thank you. And further discussions are later in the Flight Club. Again, we'll have the back room served. Of course, it is self-funded. Thank you, Jim and 360 Law, for the yesterday's sponsorship. And look behind you, please. And maybe you could remind.
Yeah, so do come to the conference. I think it's the 17th of September, correct me if I'm wrong. I forget exactly where it is. It's at Savoy Place.
Institute of?
The Institute of Engineering Technology, yes, Savoy Place. You do come. It should be good in the sense, and also you'll get to talk to Nominet people that are more knowledgeable than I am about what's really, really happening. I just sit on the board level. If you really want to know, you really have questions for your business, then the people that really, I just sit here and I'm on the top level that really do that, they'll be there. So I would suggest you come. Plus, you get to meet the people in the rest of the industry. As there should be some interesting topics. So we talk about more member engagement. I mean, just do it. Just come. It'll be an interesting day, and Nominet will benefit, and you will benefit.
I'm coming as well.
Thanks for the reminder.
Yes. Thank you. And so this debate is complete. Thank you, Raj. Thank you. Thank you, Raj. Really well done.